So we're dealing here with ideal situation. They're sweating it out every day, and if you haven't run for office, empathize with them. They're sweating it out every day. People are laughing at them. People are saying you can't win. They rebut them, saying, look, every small party in the 19th century, they didn't win either. But they were against slavery. They were for women's rights to vote. They were for farmers. They were for worker rights. And sooner or later, their proposal was adopted by the two parties, because the small parties are the pioneers. They're the ones who say it like it is. They're the conscience of our political system. And at the local level, they can win quicker. And then at the state level, at the national level. But it is hard work. And so when I ask you, as I'm going to in a moment, to contribute more, you can rest assured this is not going to be wasted. They're not going to be 3 martini lunches. This is not going to do anything other than put these people with the basic necessities to get around the state in the next 10 days. And you saw Howie on the debate. Didn't he do better than all the rest? Okay? These are the salt of the earth. Howie unloads and loads trucks in Syracuse. He has taught thousands of people in Syracuse about progressive history, about corporate power, about neighborhood revitalization. He reads, he thinks. He graduated from Dartmouth. He was in the Marines in Vietnam. He didn't go to Vietnam, fortunately. But those are the kinds of people you really want to run. How about Matt Funiciello? I call him democracy's baker. He puts out over 1 million loaves a year. And where does he get his wheat from? He gets it from upstate New York wheat farmers. He's got 2 people in this business that are paid more than he is. He pays his workers more than other competitive bakers. That's why he doesn't make that much money. But he's active in the community. I've seen him in action. He connects the community. He invigorates the community. Those are the kinds of people you want to run. And you got to be their back. You got to support them. The message, by the way, if you forget everything I said today, just say, it's easier than we think. And start giving them the examples, giving them what needs to be changed, that the majority of the people, left, right, red state, blue state, don't let them divide and rule us. Right-wing Southerners bleed like anyone else. Do you know what the polls show for non-college white men in the South? That is, they either didn't go through high school or they just graduated high school. You know what the support is for the minimum wage increase among them? The stereotype rednecks? 80%. 80%. When you get down to where people live, work, raise their families, the ideology begins to disappear on the things that really matter. It's not all these abstract generalities. This is what this book is about. Now, one thing in conclusion you may say is, well, Congress isn't what it used to be. When we got the Environmental Protection Act, OSHA, we got the Air Pollution Control Act, the Water Pollution Act, the Product Safety Act, the Free Information Act, that was another Congress. We have a worse Congress. That is right, we do have a worse Congress. Let me tell you something. When I got in Washington in the early 60s, they told me the same thing. They said, you're going to regulate the auto industry, the tire industry? Are you kidding? There are no mandatory safety standards, no airbags, no seat belts, no padded dash panels, no collapsing steering columns, no stronger latches, no rollover control, no side protection, crummy tires, crummy brakes, and you're going to force the industry, the most powerful one in the country? Do you know who you have to go through? I said, who? He said, Senator Warren Magnuson, chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee from Seattle, Washington. And he is Mr. Big Business. Well, let me tell you something. Within 6 years, because of the marches and the rallies for civil rights, against the war, for the environment, all over Washington state, finger to the wind, he ran for re-election in 1968 on the motto, "Keep the big boys honest." And he passed more consumer protection legislation than any senator in American history, with us on his back. So, then you say, Nixon was president. You're going to get environmental laws through? Air, water pollution, EPA, OSHA? Richard Nixon? Richard Nixon signed them all with a flourish. You know why? Because he saw people in the streets, and he still heard the rumble from the 60s, from the people. You gotta give them the rumble from the people. And it doesn't take that much. You know better than I how to give them a rumble from the people, day after day, week after week, all over the country. That's the way we come to this conclusion. I don't care who's in Congress as long as they can read and write. If people are organized back home, they're going to follow orders. Here, in the heyday of the union movement, Tony Mazzocchi told me, about in the 40s, after World War II, there was a question whether labor should form its own labor party. They weren't satisfied with the Democrats. And the other union organizers said, "We don't need a labor party." "What do you mean?" He said, "If these members of the House from New York City, House of Representatives, if they don't respect the needs of the workers after World War II and after coming out of the Army and Air Force and Marines and the need for jobs, they ain't coming back home. They're not coming back to their neighborhood. They'll be shamed and verbally disgraced." That's all it took. Because they knew people had a high expectation level and they wanted it. Our country's been driven to a low expectation level, and 80% of the people are making less today than they made 30, 40 years ago. And this is what the Green Party is all about. It's to raise that expectation level and to say it can be done. And even if it's 1%, just 1% can take on that 1% that the Occupy Wall Street was focusing on, when the public opinion is behind them. And the public opinion is behind us on dozens of major redirections in our country and its relations to the rest of the world. It's documented in the polls, it's documented in your own experience when you come down the abstraction ladder where people live, work, and raise their families. So let's go for it.